There's a woman I want you to think about. She's 43 years old. She wakes up every morning at 5:30, before anyone else in the house. She sits on the edge of her bed in the dark for just a moment, and in that moment, before the day begins, before she becomes mother, wife, employee, caretaker, she feels something she can't quite name. It's a kind of emptiness, not sadness exactly, something more subtle than that. She's accomplished so much. Raised 2 children who are kind and curious. Built a career that others admire. Maintained a home, relationships, a life that looks, from the outside, like everything a person could want. And yet, in that quiet moment before dawn, she asks herself a question she's been asking for 30 years. Am I enough? She doesn't ask it out loud. She barely lets herself think it consciously. But it's there. It's been there since she was 13 years old, when she first learned to measure her worth by what she produced, what she achieved, what others thought of her. You know this feeling. You've sat with this question yourself, haven't you? Maybe not in the same words. Maybe you've asked it as, what am I doing with my life? Or, why do I still feel like I'm waiting for something? Or simply, is this it? Here's what I want you to consider. What if the question itself, am I enough, is the wrong question? What if asking it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about who you are and why you're here? What if your worthiness isn't something you earn, prove, or achieve? What if it's something you were born with and the only work you have to do is remember it? Let's look at how we actually live. Not how we say we live, not how we think we should live, but how we actually move through our days. We wake up. Before our feet touch the floor, our minds are already running. What do I need to accomplish today? What didn't I finish yesterday? Who's expecting something from me? How can I prove that I'm valuable? We've built entire lives around this pursuit of worthiness. We work longer hours to show we're dedicated. We say yes when we mean no to prove we're generous. We accumulate degrees, titles, possessions, followers, each one a small piece of evidence we can present to the court of public opinion that says, see, I matter. I've earned my place here. And when we succeed, when we get the promotion, the recognition, the approval we were seeking, there's a brief moment of relief, a small exhale. Okay, I'm enough for now. But notice what happens next. The satisfaction fades, sometimes within hours, sometimes within days. And we're back at the starting line, searching for the next achievement, the next validation, the next proof. This is not a personal failing. This is a cultural condition. We've been taught, and I mean systematically, thoroughly taught, that our worth is conditional, that we arrive on this planet as blank slates, empty vessels, and we must spend our lives filling ourselves up with accomplishments, with productivity, with proof of our value. Think about how we talk to children. We say, good job, when they perform well. We say, I'm so proud of you, when they achieve something. And I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with encouragement, but notice what we rarely say. We rarely sit with a child who has done nothing particularly noteworthy and say simply, you know what? Just having you here, just your existence, just the fact that you are you, that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. We don't say it because deep down we don't believe it. Not for ourselves. And if we don't believe it for ourselves, how can we possibly transmit that belief to another? I want you to trace this pattern in your own life. Think back to the first time you remember feeling like you had to earn love. Not love as reward, where you did something good and received affection, but love as your birthright, as something you didn't have to do anything for. For some of you, that memory might be difficult to find. For some of you, it might not exist at all. And here's what's interesting. This isn't about blame. This isn't about pointing fingers at parents or teachers or society. Everyone was doing the best they could with what they understood. But the effect is the same. We internalize the message that our worth is something we must constantly prove. Now watch how this plays out in adulthood. There's a man, let's call him David. He's 51, successful by every external measure. Corner office, beautiful home, family that loves him. And David can't rest. Not really. Even on vacation, his mind is working. Even in moments of joy, there's a part of him calculating, measuring, wondering if he's done enough. His wife tells him, "You can relax now. You've made it." But David doesn't know what that means. Made it where? Every achievement has simply moved the goalpost further away. The destination keeps receding. And somewhere in a place he rarely visits, David knows the truth. He's exhausted. He's been running a race that has no finish line. Here's the question that changed everything for David, and it might change everything for you. What if you stopped running not because you gave up, but because you realized there was never anywhere you needed to get to? Have you felt this in your own life? This sense that you're always arriving but never there? That the moment of enough keeps slipping just beyond your reach? Notice something important. The exhaustion you feel isn't because you haven't worked hard enough. It's because you've been working toward the wrong thing. You've been trying to earn something you already have. Let me give you another way to see this. Imagine you're standing in a room, and in your hand you're holding a flashlight. The room is dark, and you're searching for something. You've been told there's a precious jewel hidden somewhere in this room, and your entire life depends on finding it. So you search. You look under furniture, behind curtains, in every corner and crevice. Years pass. You keep searching. The flashlight never rests. Your arm grows tired, your eyes grow weary, but you can't stop because the jewel is too important. Your worth depends on finding it. And then, one day, you happen to look down, and you realize something that stops you completely. The jewel is in your other hand. It's been there the whole time. You were born holding it. This is what I mean when I say you are worthy because you exist. The worthiness isn't hidden. It isn't somewhere out there waiting to be found. It isn't something you must achieve or earn or prove. It's what you are. It's what you've always been. The search wasn't wrong. It just wasn't necessary. Now, I want to go deeper with you, because understanding this intellectually is very different from knowing it in your bones. And there's a reason this truth is so difficult to accept, even when part of you recognizes it's true. The ego, and I use that word deliberately, the ego has a function. Its job is to keep you separate, to define where you end and the world begins. This is useful for basic survival. You need to know that you are you and the table is the table and the other person is the other person. But the ego has a tendency to overstep. It doesn't just define you, it defends you. And in its defense, it creates a story about who you are that becomes more real to you than your actual self. The story goes something like this. You are what you have. You are what you do. You are what others think of you. These become the 3 pillars of ego identity. And if any of these pillars is threatened, if you lose your possessions, if you fail at a task, if someone criticizes you, the ego experiences it as a threat to your very existence. This is why criticism stings so much. This is why failure feels like death. This is why we fight so hard to acquire and achieve and impress. We're not protecting our interests. We're protecting our identity, or what we think is our identity. But here's what nobody talks about. The ego's identity isn't who you are. It's just a story you've been telling yourself. And like all stories, it can be rewritten. Think about water for a moment. Water in a river doesn't question its worth. It doesn't compare itself to the ocean and feel inadequate. It doesn't look at a waterfall and think, I should be more like that. Water simply is. It flows. It adapts. It moves. It rests, all without any sense that it must prove itself to be water. You might say, but water doesn't have consciousness. Water can't doubt itself. And that's precisely the point. Doubt about your fundamental worth isn't a feature of consciousness. It's a distortion of consciousness. It's what happens when awareness gets tangled up with ego identification. When you were born, before you had language, before you had any concept of success or failure, before anyone taught you to compare yourself to others, you existed purely, simply, completely. And that existence was neither good nor bad, neither worthy nor unworthy. It simply was. Nothing has changed since then. You're still that same existence, that same awareness, that same presence. The only difference is that you've accumulated stories about who you're supposed to be. Here's the most powerful insight I can offer you. Pause for a moment. Just pause. Right now, in this moment, you are not your job title. You are not your bank balance. You are not your relationship status. You are not the thoughts running through your mind. You are not even the body sitting wherever you're sitting. You are the awareness witnessing all of it. And that awareness, that fundamental sense of I am, has no deficiency. It doesn't need improvement. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need anything at all. The Hindus have a phrase for this. Tat tvamasi. It means you are that. You are the very essence of existence itself, temporarily expressing through this particular form, at this particular time, in this particular way. And that essence is worthy not because of what it does, but because of what it is. Let me contrast two lives so you can see how this understanding changes everything. Consider a woman named Maria. Maria grew up believing she had to earn her place in the world. She worked tirelessly, achieved greatly, but there was always a hunger. Every accomplishment was followed by the question, what next? She couldn't enjoy her successes because she was already worried about the next challenge. She couldn't accept compliments because she felt like a fraud. She couldn't rest because rest felt like failure. At 62, Maria had a health crisis that forced her to stop. For the first time in her life, she couldn't do anything. She couldn't produce, couldn't achieve, couldn't contribute in any tangible way. And in that stillness, something unexpected happened. She discovered that she was still there. The doer was gone, but the being remained. And in that being, she found a peace she'd never known. She realized she had spent her whole life trying to become something she already was. Now consider a man named Thomas. Thomas, by external measures, achieved far less than Maria. He worked a simple job, lived modestly, didn't accumulate wealth or status. But Thomas understood something Maria had to learn the hard way. Thomas knew that his worth came from his existence, not his achievements. So he lived differently. He savored meals instead of rushing through them. He listened fully when people spoke instead of planning his response. He didn't need to impress anyone because he wasn't trying to prove anything. He moved through the world with a quiet confidence that had nothing to do with his circumstances. People were drawn to Thomas. They couldn't explain why, but they felt better in his presence. He had a kind of spaciousness about him, an acceptance that made others feel accepted too. Here's the difference between Maria and Thomas. Maria spent 60 years trying to earn what Thomas knew he already had. But here's what changes everything. It's never too late to make this shift. Maria made it at 62. You can make it right now. The shift isn't about abandoning ambition or giving up on your goals. It's about changing why you pursue them. When you chase achievement to prove your worth, you're running on a treadmill to nowhere. When you engage with life from a place of already wholeness, your actions become expressions of who you are, not attempts to become something you're not. Do you see the difference? It's subtle but profound. In one case, you're trying to fill a hole. In the other, you're overflowing from fullness. Let me address something that might be arising for you. You might be thinking, this sounds nice, but it doesn't match my experience. I don't feel worthy. I feel anxious, inadequate, constantly struggling. I understand. And I want to be very clear about something. The feeling of unworthiness is real. I'm not dismissing it. But feelings aren't always accurate reflections of reality. You can feel that the sun revolves around the earth, that's certainly how it appears, but the feeling doesn't make it true. Your feelings of unworthiness are real experiences, but they're based on a misunderstanding. They're the result of years of conditioning, of messages internalized so deeply that they feel like truth. Unpacking them takes time. It takes patience. It takes a willingness to question what you've always assumed. And that's okay. This isn't about forcing yourself to feel worthy. It's about gradually recognizing that the worthiness was never something you had to feel or achieve. It was something you've always been. So how do we move from understanding this to living it? The first thing I'll say is that this is not a technique. It's not something you do once and complete. It's more like a remembering that you return to again and again until it becomes your natural way of being. But there are practices that support this remembering. The first is simply this. Notice when you're seeking approval. Throughout your day, you'll have moments when you're about to speak or act, and there's a calculation happening beneath the surface. How will this make me look? What will they think? Will this prove my value? When you notice this, and the noticing is everything, pause. Don't judge yourself for it. Just observe. And in that moment of observation, ask yourself, what if I didn't need their approval? What would I do then? Sometimes the answer is the same, sometimes it's different. But the asking itself begins to create space between who you are and who your ego thinks you need to be. The second practice is to spend time each day in stillness. Not productivity, not self-improvement, just being. This is harder than it sounds. The mind will protest. It will say, this is a waste of time. You should be doing something useful. You're falling behind. These are the ego's alarms, signaling that its grip is being loosened. Let the alarms sound. Don't argue with them. Just return to stillness. Even 5 minutes a day begins to rewire the assumption that your worth depends on constant doing. In that stillness, you're not trying to become anything. You're not improving yourself. You're just experiencing what it's like to exist without agenda. And in that experience, you might glimpse something you've been searching for your whole life, the recognition that you've already arrived. The third practice involves how you talk to yourself. Listen to your inner dialogue. Really listen. Most of us have an internal narrator that is relentlessly critical. You should have done better. Why did you say that? You're not good enough. They're going to see through you. This narrator isn't your friend. It's not helping you improve. It's reinforcing the belief that you are fundamentally flawed and must work constantly to compensate. When you notice this voice, don't fight it. Don't try to silence it. Just recognize it for what it is. Old conditioning, running on autopilot. And then, gently, introduce a different voice. One that says, you are enough. You've always been enough. Nothing you do or fail to do can change that. At first, this will feel false. The critical voice has had decades of practice. The compassionate voice is new. But persistence matters. Over time, the balance shifts. So here's what you do, starting today. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to sit quietly for just 3 minutes. Set a timer if you need to. And during those 3 minutes, don't try to accomplish anything. Don't meditate toward some goal. Don't visualize success or recite affirmations. Just sit with this one thought. I am worthy because I exist. Not because of what I've done, not because of what I'll do, because I am. Let the thought be there. Don't force yourself to believe it. Just let it be present, like a guest in your mind. Some of you will feel resistance. That's fine. Some of you will feel emotion rising. That's fine too. Some of you will feel nothing at all, and you'll wonder if you're doing it wrong. You're not. The practice isn't about producing a particular experience. It's about beginning to shift your relationship with your own worth. 3 minutes tonight. 3 minutes tomorrow night. Small moments of remembering that compound over time. There's an objection I want to address. Some of you are thinking, if I accept that I'm already worthy, won't I become complacent? Won't I stop trying? This is the ego's fear speaking. The ego believes that self-criticism is the only thing keeping you motivated, that if you accepted yourself, you'd become lazy and stagnant. But observe the people who are truly at peace with themselves. They're not passive. They're often the most engaged, the most creative, the most alive. Because they're not wasting energy on self-doubt. Because they're not acting from fear of inadequacy. They act from fullness, not lack. When you know you're worthy, regardless of outcome, you become free to take risks. You become free to fail. You become free to pursue what genuinely matters instead of what you think will prove your value. This is simpler than you think. It doesn't require you to believe anything you don't already on some level know. It just requires you to stop believing what isn't true. Remember the woman we began with? 43 years old, sitting on the edge of her bed in the dark, asking herself if she's enough. Imagine her now, after what we've discussed together. She still wakes at 5:30. She still sits in that quiet moment before dawn. But the question has changed. She no longer asks, am I enough? She knows the answer. She's always known it, she just forgot. Now she asks a different question. a better one. She asks, how will I express my worthiness today? Not prove it, express it. What will I create? Who will I love? How will I show up? Fully present, knowing that I don't have to earn my place here. The circumstances of her life haven't changed, but her relationship to them has transformed entirely. She's no longer running towards some future state of enoughness. She's living from a place of already wholeness. And everything looks different from there. This is what I want for you. Not a life free of challenges, not a life without difficulty or doubt, but a life where the challenges don't shake your foundation. A life where difficulty doesn't convince you that you're broken. A life where doubt arises and passes like clouds across a sky that remains unchanged. You see, when you understand that your worth is inherent, something remarkable happens. You stop taking things so personally. The criticism that used to devastate you becomes information you can consider or discard. The failure that used to feel like proof of your inadequacy becomes a learning experience, nothing more. The rejection that used to wound you deeply loses its sting because you truly know that another person's opinion has no power to diminish what you are. This is freedom. Not freedom from circumstances, but freedom within them. The freedom to be fully human, without being enslaved by your humanity. And here's something else that happens. Your relationships transform. When you're not constantly seeking validation from others, you can actually see them. You can listen without calculating what you'll say next. You can love without needing love in return to feel complete. You can give without keeping score because you're not giving to get, you're giving because giving is an expression of the fullness you already are. Think about that for a moment. How many of your relationships have been shaped by your need to be seen as worthy? How much energy have you spent trying to impress people, trying to earn their approval, trying to prove that you deserve their attention and affection? What if you could let all of that go? What if you could enter every room, every conversation, every relationship, knowing that you have nothing to prove? Not because you've already proven it, but because proof was never required in the first place. This is the life that awaits you on the other side of this understanding. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, but an authentic one. A life where you finally stop performing and start being. A life where your actions flow from who you are rather than from who you're trying to become. Here is what I want you to carry with you. You are not here to prove yourself. You never were. You are here to express what you already are. And what you are beneath the stories, beneath the doubts, beneath the endless striving is existence itself. Temporarily taking this particular form at this particular moment in this particular way. That's not something you can earn. It's not something you can lose. It's not something anyone can give you or take away. No achievement can add to it. No failure can subtract from it. No opinion, yours or anyone else's, can alter it in any way. It is what you are. It is what you have always been. It is what you will always be. Tonight, before you sleep, 3 minutes of stillness. One thought held gently in your mind. I am worthy because I exist. Not as affirmation, not as wishful thinking, but as recognition of what has always been true. And if you forget tomorrow, and you will forget, because forgetting is part of being human, simply remember again, this isn't a destination you arrive at once and stay forever. It's a homecoming you practice again and again until home becomes the place you never leave. And here is my final thought for you. The sun doesn't argue for its right to shine. It doesn't wake up each morning wondering if it's bright enough, warm enough, worthy enough to rise. It simply rises. It simply shines. It simply is what it is, fully and completely, without question or apology. The ocean doesn't justify its vastness. It doesn't compare itself to other bodies of water and feel inadequate. It doesn't shrink itself to make others comfortable. It simply exists in its fullness, powerful and peaceful, deep and ever-present. The tree doesn't apologize for taking up space. It doesn't wonder if it deserves the soil that nourishes it, the rain that sustains it, the sunlight that calls it upward. It simply grows. It simply reaches. It simply becomes what it was always meant to become. You are not less than the sun or the ocean or the tree. You are cut from the same cloth of existence. You are made of the same energy that ignites stars and moves tides and pushes green shoots through concrete. You are the universe experiencing itself through these particular eyes, this particular heart, this particular moment of awareness. And that is enough. It's always been enough. It will always be enough. Now go. Not to prove anything, not to become anything, not to earn what was given to you freely at the moment of your birth, just to be what you've always been. Worthy, complete, whole, simply because you are.